Hi guys, welcome to Short Skirts and Sarcasm. I'm Caroline, and today I have another episode of Quarter of a Century Makes a Girl Think, just for you. And these are the 25 highest priority Kindle books that I have that I want to read. And as always, these are in alphabetical order by title. So to start, I have American Wife by Curtis Sittenfeld. I came across this on Sentimental Garbage, the podcast about chick lit hosted by Caroline O'Donoghue. And this is a sort of fictional imagining of, is it one of the women who married one of the Bush presidents. And she sort of is in the White House as First Lady, considering how she got there. And the story sort of starts in the 1940s and goes from there, and sort of how she as a person was sort of a centrist Democrat voter and how she got pulled into Republican politics. So it sounds interesting, and we all know if it's been on Sentimental Garbage, I need to read it. And next I have Bear Yours by Terry Bullwriter, I think it's pronounced, and this is a polar bear shapeshifter romance novel. And the reason that this is on here is because it's a present from someone in my book club. They gave it to me for my birthday, and it came about because we were talking about sort of like shapeshifter romances and how they're pretty like weird and funny, and we discovered a bunch of them and sort of like laughed at the covers because some of them are pretty funny. Then I guess she like waited until the right moment and gave me this high quality piece of literature for my birthday. So thank you. And next I have Because of You by Dawn French. And this has, I think, been nominated for the Bailey's Prize for Women's Fiction. I can't remember now, but I have read one of Dawn French's other books, Oh Dear Sylvia, and I liked it enough that I would like to read the rest of her books. The title always makes me think of the Kelly Clarkson song, which I don't think that's what Dawn French was going for, but it's got a soundtrack now. And this is about sort of the beginning of the new millennium and two women in the maternity ward of a hospital going into labor, and then sort of like the aftermath and how these women are intertwined and what sort of happens to them. And it sounds really nice and possibly also sad, but nice and sad is probably my literary sweet spot, so very on brand. Next, I have Blonde Roots by Bernardine Evaristo, and I read Girl, Woman, Other when it came out, and I absolutely loved it. It was one of my, I think, top books of 2020, and it made me want to read more Bernardine Evaristo, and in my opinion, that book, Girl, Woman, Other, should have won the Booker Prize by itself. It did not deserve to be maligned, brought down, eclipsed by The Testaments by Margaret Atwood, which in my opinion was a trash book and shouldn't have even been nominated for that prize, let alone be a co-winner. But anyway, Blonde Roots is a historical fiction sort of reimagining of the transatlantic slave trade if it had been reversed and Europeans were enslaved by Africans instead of the other way around. And it's described as tragicomic, so I have no idea what to expect. I'm expecting it to be clever and thoughtful and will make me think, as well as like anyone else who reads it. So I am pretty excited, and I will probably put it on a TBR very soon. Next up, I have Gravity is the Thing by Jacqueline Moriarty. And Jacqueline Moriarty is probably most famous for writing Feeling Sorry for Celia, which is a young adult book about this girl who is dealing with the disappearance of her strange and wild best friend. And she is also getting these weird notes from societies that kind of like don't exist. And it's funny and hilarious, and one of my favorite books. I read it loads when I was in middle school and also throughout high school, and I would like to read it again, but the book copy that I read was a public library copy, so I don't actually have my own, and I would like to get one just because I love this book so much. But Gravity is the Thing is an adult book by the same author, and is again about a missing person, but it is a missing sibling, and I am thinking that maybe it's not the same funny kind of missing person's plot line that Feeling Sorry for Celia was. And Jacqueline Moriarty is of course the sister of Leanne Moriarty, who is pretty famous for writing Big Little Lies and The Husband's Secret. So it just seems like they are a family of wildly talented writers. And when I first read Big Little Lies, I thought it was really funny that the only other book I'd read at that point set in Australia or written by an Australian author was also named Moriarty, and it's like so funny they have the same last name, and it turns out they are sisters. Next up, I want to read Happy Fat by Sophie Hagen, and Sophie Hagen is a Danish comedian and who is also a fat woman, and this is her memoir about being like happy in her body and how people should stop being fat phobic, which amen, yes. And next, I want to read Jade City by Fonda Lee. I got this book for 99p, and it was very close after I watched Jesse from Bow Ties and Books talk about how they really either enjoyed Jade City or really wanted to read it. And so that's what sort of like put it on my radar. I saw it was in 99p and I immediately bought it. And then I looked up the plot description and it sounds intriguing. It is a fantasy about blood feuds and vicious politics. So there's a like sort of rare magical jade, and is it currency? Maybe it's currency. It doesn't say in the description. However, there are certain elite families that have access to the magical jade, and there are others who don't, and then things start to change. So I do love a good political fantasy. It's a fun time and I am very excited. And next, I want to read Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ning. And I read Everything I Never Told You in 2019, I think, and I absolutely loved it. It's sad and bittersweet and kind of devastating, but it was beautifully written, and I loved the characters, I loved the plot, and I loved like the commentary about what it's like being an Asian American in the 70s, which is sort of like when that story takes place. And what I will say about Everything I Never Told You is that a lot of the plot descriptions make it sound like it's a murder mystery, and that is what I was expecting when I went into this book. And it's really more of a family drama, an intergenerational family drama about dealing with the loss of this missing girl. And so Little Fires Everywhere is about a, I think, affluent white woman who or takes in someone, hires someone. I can't even remember, but I know it has been turned into like a prestige TV series, which I have not been watching because I want to read the book first. And hopefully I am able to get to that soon and actually read it, and then I can watch the TV show. Next, I want to read Not That Bad by Roxane Gay. Everything else I've read by Roxane Gay is wonderful and excellent, and I just want more. So Roxane Gay has written a book and I'm gonna read it. I that's all there is to be said about that. And next up is a classic that I have wanted to read for a while, and that is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And I have pretty much liked everything I have read by him. I've read the other, big classic of his. What's it called? It's on my bookshelves. I can visualize the cover, but I can't remember the title. Love in the Time of Cholera. And I loved Love in the Time of Cholera. I've also read Memoirs of a Melancholy Horse, which I thought was kind of weird, kind of interesting. I like the writing style, but disturbing. And then also his short story collection, No One Writes the Colonel and Other Stories, of which I can remember absolutely nothing. But I think that is a problem with me and short stories, not necessarily of the collection itself. So 100 Years of Solitude is, I think, another intergenerational family drama, and it's famous. It's a classic for a reason, and I think we can leave it at that. I also want to read Pale Rider by Laura Spinney, and this is a nonfiction book about the 1918 flu pandemic. And I know it's weird to want to read a pandemic book in pandemic times, but I'm weird, so ha. Next, I want to read Postcards from the Edge by Carrie Fisher. I have read all of Carrie Fisher's memoirs, and I love them. I love her writing style. I love her humor. And this is, I think, her first fiction book. I think she's read others as well. I think this is like semi-autobiographical. There are like aspects of it that you can see relating to Carrie Fisher, the real life person. And I've been wanting to read it for a while, and I do finally have the Kindle book, so I can do that now. And next, another really famous book, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. And obviously, it's super hyped. Everyone loves it. Everyone's talking about the Shadow and Bone books right now because there's the Netflix adaptation, and I'm feeling less of a draw to Shadow and Bone, but Six of Crows does actually sound really interesting, and I think I've had it for a while on my Kindle, and I think it is another 99p Kindle book. As I know I've mentioned before, I love 99p Kindle deals. How can I resist? And I have read some other Leigh Bardugo. I mean, the only other book by her that I've read is Ninth House, which is it adult or does it still count as YA? I'm not sure. It was a Christmas present to me because I was sort of on a dark academia binge, and I have thoughts about the dark academia genre, which I will hopefully be writing about soon once I read enough other popular dark academia. Next, I have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and this will probably be the last Naomi Novik book I will ever read, considering my issues with all of her other books. I know I've talked about Uprooted before, and I've put her on my like anti-TBR tag. We can leave that in the past. You can go watch those videos if you want to. But Spinning Silver is a standalone fantasy about a daughter of money lenders, but because her parents cannot collect on these debts, they are now impoverished. And this seems like a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, and I do love fairy tale retelling, so maybe I will love it, and maybe I will decide to give Naomi Novik another chance after this one. Like I have said in my previous Quarter of a Century Makes a Girl Think books I want to reread video, I do want to reread Uprooted because it's weird and complicated, and I have a lot of thoughts about it, and I would like to explore them and give Uprooted another chance. Next up is a literary fiction book that is contemporary, and that is Supper Club by Lara Williams. This was on a list of like best books of, was it 2020 or 2019? 2019, I think, in Marie Claire. And I read the description, I was like, ooh, I need to remember this one. And so I did, and it was finally like 99p on Kindle, so I bought it. And the tagline for this is, if you feed a starving woman, what will she grow into? I love that tagline. I love that like idea. I love that like exploration. And it seems like it's a group of young women who have a supper club, and they get together and they eat. And I think it might talk about eating disorders. It certainly sounds that way, a society of hungry young women who meet after dark and feast to reclaim their appetites and their physical spaces. Next up, I have a short story collection, which I know I literally just said that I don't really gel with short stories, but it is Jen Campbell's short story collection, At the Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night. And Jen Campbell is a YouTuber and disability rights activist who I really, really admire. So I know she's also written other things which I would also like to read. So I'm going to start with this one because I've got the ebook. Next, I want to read The Five by Hallie Rubenhold, and this is about the lives of the victims of Jack the Ripper. So I always think that a lot of true crime narrative focuses too much on like the murders and the murderers and sort of loses sight of like the victims and their lives and their personalities and their families and who they were before they became like synonymous with tragedy. So I am really excited for this and I hope it lives up to my expectation. And next I have The Mothers by Britt Bennett, and I read The Vanishing Half in February or January early this year, and I really, really liked it, and I would like to read more Britt Bennett. I think her writing is really great. So this looks at growing up Black in Southern California, and specifically the main character is in high school, and her mother has just died by suicide, and so she's working through that. And so, I mean, it sounds like it's gonna be really sad, but I think I will still really enjoy it because I like things that are really sad, as I'm sure we have discussed on this channel before. And next I want to read The Poppy Wart by R.F. Kuang, and this is another really like hyped series, and I think it is like a political fantasy, which we already know I like, and it sort of goes through like training for war, and then like the rest of the series kind of is like war and its aftermath. And as we also know, I like war narratives, so apparently this is going to like rip my heart out and stomp on it, and I can't wait. And then I want to read The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman, and this is a prequel novel or novella to Practical Magic, and I finally read Practical Magic last year after loving The Ice Queen and Blackbird House, both also written by Alice Hoffman, and I thought I would give her most prominent, most famous, most hyped, most treasured book a try, and it was worth it. I really, really enjoyed it, and I would also like to watch the movie again because it has been a while, but I can't find that it's streaming anywhere. I am sad about that. So hopefully it comes on a streaming network soon. And next I want to read The Sisters Grimm by Menna van Praag. And apparently this is the first in a series, but I think this came out in 2020 and it was another 99p Kindle deal. So it is on my Kindle waiting to be enjoyed. And it sounds like a creepy magical tale of sisterhood, and I like all of those things. Four girls, half sisters connected by blood and magic, begin to nurture their elemental powers together, but at 13 the sisters were ripped from elsewhere and separated. Now 5 years later they search for one another and yearn to rediscover their unique and supernatural strength. So this sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like a sort of like younger version of the Once and Future Witches, which I absolutely loved, and I have high hopes for this one. And another witch book I want to read is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson, and it's about a community in which there were, I think, witch trials and witch executions, and the main character goes into the woods where witch ghosts give her the diary of her mother, and she finds out that she has also been a witch, and now the main character is also a witch. I am hazy on the plot details, but I know it made the rounds of BookTube late last year and sort of got a mixed reaction. So I am excited to see where I land on this one. And next I have another nonfiction book, and that is Turning Point by Chloe Angel. And I know that I have mentioned this one on the channel before when I talked about watching the Raymonda ballet, and it is finally out. I pre-ordered it and it has downloaded to my Kindle, and I am so excited. It's about the world of ballet, the ways in which the ballet world like sort of abuses its dancers and puts in barriers to entry for like fat ballerinas, black ballerinas, and like girls and men that are either like too tall or too short, don't have the right body, don't have like the right beauty standards that the industry is looking for, and how some people in the ballet community are fighting to change that. So it is really about the future of ballet, and I am so excited. I know I've said it before and I will say it again. I am so excited for this book. I follow Chloe's ballet Substack called My Point Is, point with an E spelled like point shoe. It's very clever, and I've been subscribed long enough that I've sort of followed her journey of writing this book, and so I've like been invested since she announced this project, and I think this is one of like the highest priority books on this already high priority list. And next I want to read When the Tiger Came Down from the Mountain by Ni Vo, and I read her other novella, which it says this is a series, but it seems like they're more like companion novels rather than like following on a series. What's the first one called? The Empress of Salt and Fortune, which I actually do want to reread because I've forgotten literally everything about it apart from that I really liked it. So this is another sort of like folklore novella with layers of like love stories and folklore and storytelling, and so I am super excited. It's only 128 pages, so I should be able to knock that one out pretty quickly, and hopefully I'll get to it soon. And the last book on this list is Wizard of the Crow by Ngugi wa Thiong, and this is a book set in Kenya. The author is Kenyan, and it's been on my radar for at least since like 2017, and I finally got the Kindle book, so I am really hoping to get to it soon. So in the author's own words, the purpose of this book is to sum up Africa of the 20th century in the context of 2,000 years of world history. So it is about post-colonial Kenya, colonialism, like legacies of colonialism, and as I've already discussed, this is my wheelhouse. I love deconstructing colonialism. So it is a chunky one. It is 768 pages, so it is daunting to say the least, but I am really hoping to get to it soon. So we've reached the end. These are the 25 Kindle books that I want to read most soonest, most high priority, and hopefully I will be able to. And you can subscribe to see how I get along with that. You can also like this video and follow me on social media. All my links will be in the description box below, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.